Okay, Chair, we're now live.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and good morning, everyone. Welcome, members, and welcome to anyone who's watching from home. I am Councillor Steve Pitt, and I'm the Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Economic Development. Welcome to this meeting, which is being held virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. The City Solicitor has advised that this meeting will be run by reference to the model standing orders as set out in the Local Authorities Coronavirus Flexibility of Local Authority Meetings Regulations 2020 number 392. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting, and there has been the opportunity for written representations to be submitted. Those present are requested to keep their microphones on mute and to only turn their cameras on when they are called to speak. Members are requested to keep their cameras on at all times. Officers are requested to turn off their cameras and turn them on only when they are presenting or answering questions. If anyone would like to speak, what I'll do is what I always do in these meetings, which is go to each of the opposition spokespeople in turn after every report, and that way we make absolutely sure we don't miss anybody. If there are any technical difficulties, we will endeavour to resolve these, and where necessary there may have to be a brief adjournment. Fingers crossed. Introductions is next, and that means that we need to introduce you all to the elected members on the meeting today, and then to the officers. I'll come to the members first, and I'll go to Councillor Frank Jonas, please.
Councillor Frank Jonas, opposition member for the Conservative Party.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning. And to Claire.
Good morning, my name is Councillor Claire UD and I'm opposition spokesperson for the Progressive Portsmouth Peoples. I'd say we're a party, but grouping. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Bet you wish I hadn't called it that. And Councillor Morgan, please.
Good morning, Councillor Stephen Morgan, Labour Group spokesperson.
Okay, now we've got a number of officers from the City Council with us today, and I'm going to go to them simply in the order that they are popping up on the bottom of my screen. Observing today from the Council, we have Claire Watkins. Would you like to introduce yourself, Claire?
Claire Watkins, Business Development Manager.
Thank you. We've got David Evans with us.
Good morning, councillors. David Evans, Sports and Leisure Facilities Manager.
Thank you. We've got Jonathan Waite with us.
Jonathan Waite, Democratic Services.
Morning, Jonathan. We've got Claire Looney.
Claire Looney, Partnership and Commissioning Manager.
Good morning, Claire. We've got Susan Ward with us.
Good morning, members. Susan Ward, Curator of Art at Portsmouth Museum Service.
Morning, Susan. We have James Daly with us.
Good morning, James Daly, Cultural Development and Projects Officer.
We also have, sorry, I'm just going to wait for Teams to catch up because it's showing me the live stream bot. Katie Ball.
Good morning, members. Katie Ball, Collections Registrar at Portsmouth Museum Service.
Morning, Katie. We've got Lisa Gallagher with us.
Good morning, Lisa Gallagher, Democratic Services.
We have Dr. Jane Mee with us.
Good morning, Jane Mee, Museums and Visitor Services Manager.
Morning, Jane. And finally, we have Sue Page with us this morning.
Good morning, it's Sue Page, Finance Manager.
Okay, welcome everyone. We have no apologies for absence today. Everyone who's expected is here. Are there any declarations of interest, members? Silence will be taken as affirmation. No, that's fine. Okay, so straight into the reports, and item 3 on the agenda today is the Museum Documentation, Collection, Care and Conservation Policies, and I believe that's why we have Susan, Katie and Jane with us today. Officers, who's leading this report?
Susan Ward is going to present.
Thank you, Jane. Susan, over to you.
Morning. So the purpose of the report is to present the museum documentation policy and collection care and conservation policy, both for approval. The background is both the documentation policy and the collection care and conservation policies are an essential part of the Council's collections management framework. They state the aims and methods for the documentation and recording of the Council's museums collections and their care and conservation. Effective documentation of the collections is achieved through working practices, creation and maintenance of electronic and paper records as guided by the policy, and effective conservation is achieved through preventative measures that protect the collection from damage, supported by remedial work as and when required. The two policies provide guidance for staff and decision making and encourage public confidence in the museum service as a suitable repository for collections items. And also the two policies represent the whole museum service and are required for accreditation in the national standard for museums in England as managed by the Arts Council England. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. Katie or Jane, did you have anything to add? No? Okay, I'll go to members for questions then, or comments. Councillor Frank Jonas.
Yes, Councillor. I'd just like to thank the officers for the report, and there's nothing to add since the briefing meeting. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stephen Morgan.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. And Councillor Claire Udy.
Thank you for the report. I've got nothing to add.
Okay, there are two recommendations that I'm being asked to accept, and that is one, that the documentation policy is approved, and two, that the collection, care and conservation policy is approved, and both of those are. So thank you very much, Susan, for presenting, and Jane and Katie, thanks for joining us as well. That's that item concluded. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on then to item 4 on the agenda, which is still making me smile, and that is metal detecting policy. And I believe that's James Daly presenting.
Good morning. The purpose of the report is to introduce a policy that outlines the circumstances under which the City Council may or may not give permission for metal detecting on its land. Portsmouth has a large number of scheduled monuments and sites of special scientific interest, which both have statutory protection from excavations, and we also have a lot of areas with archaeological potential. We've also got a very densely populated city with relatively less public space than a lot of other cities, so the spaces that we do have are very well used by a wide range of people. And as the local authority and landowner, we need to balance the needs and safety of all users of our land, thinking about things like the risk of holes and divots to people who are using spaces. So in putting together this policy, we've drawn on the relevant legislation, as well as good practice from the Portable Antiquities Scheme, including incorporating the scheme's code of conduct for metal detectorists. We've also looked at the policies of bodies such as the National Trust and Crown Estates, and looked at the policies that have been introduced by other local authorities. It's also worth noting at this point, I think, that most other local authorities do have metal detecting policies, so our policy would bring us into line with the best practice nationally. Some local authorities do operate a permit scheme, but these generally have a very different land profile to Portsmouth. They often have more space, particularly farmland, which has been disturbed by ploughing and is more suitable for metal detecting. Our land portfolio is very different, and the policy that we've put together, we think, reflects Portsmouth's heritage, which belongs to everyone, and we have a duty to protect for future generations, and also reflects the way that our spaces are used by the public. Since the report's been published, we have been contacted by the Hampshire Fines Liaison Officer, and as a result of our dialogue, we're confident that our policy does reflect best practice. Our policy does require detectorists to report fines to the Fines Liaison Officer, and through the Portable Antiquities Scheme, we do often receive objects for our museum collections. We've also been contacted by the Institute of Detectorists, who offer archaeological training courses for metal detectorists. And we can signpost people who want to metal detect on our land towards them. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, James. I'll come to Councillor Frank Jonas first.
Thank you, James, for the report. Nothing to add since the briefing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stephen Morgan.
Nothing to add since the briefing. Thank you, James.
Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, there she is. Perfect timing. Councillor Claire Udy, please.
Sorry about that. I just had to do something in the kitchen. Thank you for your report. I spoke at length. Well, I probably spoke quite a lot about it at the briefing meeting, but I really enjoy being on this portfolio because I learn stuff every day, and I've learned all about this now. So thank you very much for the information.
Okay, so thank you, James. There are recommendations attached to the report, and that is that the metal detecting policy is adopted and that is approved. And secondly, that the responsibility is delegated to Culture, Leisure and Regulatory Services to consider applications to metal detect on Portsmouth City Council land, and that's also approved. So thanks very much, James, for the report. I'm sure this is going to throw up some interesting incidents over the years to come. I look forward to reading about them in the news. So thanks very much for presenting today, and those recommendations are accepted. Okay. Item 5 on our agenda today, members, is the revenue grant proposals for the forthcoming financial year. Claire Looney to present, please.
Good morning and thank you, members. The purpose of this report is to outline the details of the proposed revenue grants to cultural organisations for the next financial year. As you will appreciate from the previous decision meeting in January, we presented a paper which highlighted the challenges and difficulties that many of these organisations have faced in the last 12 months. The purpose of this report is really to then put into context what we are proposing as part of our normal revenue funding. All this revenue funding is linked directly to a service level agreement, and the focus for the next year's service level agreements, will be to look at areas such as social value under the new council policy, and to ensure that these are reflected within the SLAs that are going to go forward with those organisations. Having said that, at the moment, none of these cultural organisations are able to operate in a normal way. So we obviously appreciate that they're still in a process of re-evaluating how and when they can reopen or become active again in line with the government guidelines. So this is very much a holding position in terms of, yes, the revenue funding is there, but we do appreciate that a number of those organisations are not going to be fully up and running until all the current restrictions are removed. I'd be very happy to take any questions on the paper if there are any.
Thanks, Claire. Just before I go on to members, just to comment here for the benefit of anyone watching at home, and that is that it's not going to be as simple as turning on a switch on the 21st of June for our cultural venues. They often have to promote shows in order to generate ticket sales months in advance. They haven't had the certainty of that. They're also not quite sure whether the lifting of regulations will be the same as lifting the advice around hands, face, space, which may, and I expect it will, remain for some time to come, and therefore that may affect theatres and event spaces in terms of their capacities. And I know, having run a venue myself, that most of venues, especially for their bigger shows, run on very tight margins, and they rely on every ticket being sold in order to generate an income for their organisations. So this is not going to be straightforward. I just wanted to thank Stephen Morgan for the lobbying he's done to government on this, because he also understands it quite well, and has been writing letters and lobbying and raising this in Parliament, which is useful. We've also, as an administration, the council, been raising this, and I know the leader of the council has been raising it through the LGA, the Local Government Association, as well. So it's good that we're all on the same page, but this is not, we're not going to be out of the woods just when the restrictions end, and I think that's something that everybody needs to be mindful of. Okay, that said, Councillor Frank Jonas, any questions on the revenue grants?
No, Councillor, and thank you, Claire, but nothing to add since the briefing.
Okay, Councillor Stephen Morgan.
Thank you, Claire, for the paper. Just wanted to emphasise the importance of the core funding from the local authority to help with leverage for those organisations. It's so vital, and I'll carry on banging the drum for culture so that it's front and centre in our city's recovery.
Cool. Thank you, Stephen. Actually, you did raise a question at the briefing that I just wanted to address, and that is future support for groundlings, which is not in this report, but we did, through the Members Information Service, notify members that we have been able to allocate £5,000 towards assisting them with being able to reopen, because as a new organisation at the start of the pandemic, under a new structure, they weren't able to access a lot of the grants that the other organisations were. So I'm going to continue to monitor groundlings closely, and Chris Richards, on behalf of Portsmouth City Council, attends their trustee board meetings and reports back. So we'll keep a close eye on what they're doing. And I had a meeting with their chief exec last week to assure him that we're there if they need our support to come and get in touch. So that was just to update you on that. Councillor Claire Udy, any comments on the revenue grants?
Not too much, other than the fact that during COVID-19, I think we've all lived by the saying that you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And we're going to come out of this, and hopefully, in my mind, that there'll be a massive boom time for cultural venues. There might even be little gig venues popping up, might have a new I really want a new DIY scene, and I really hope that happens, because I think we've got lots of angry teenagers who want to thrash it out on their guitars, hopefully, and we can have some good music coming out of the city once again. So I'm happy going work about this, because I don't want any cultural institutions to fail in Portsmouth whatsoever. So thank you.
I completely agree, and I'm sure we all do. So thank you, Claire. That's a point well made. Claire Looney, any final comments from you, or are you happy?
I'm happy, thank you very much.
Okay, in that case, it's recommended to propose the details of the funding levels of the revenue grants for 21-22, and to outline the different payments scheduled in order to reflect the way in which current pandemic circumstances are affecting cultural organisations. So that is approved. So thank you very much indeed. And final comment from me on this is we've frozen. This is the second year that these grants have been frozen and not reduced, and I think that's important. And that stability for these organisations needs to carry on for a while yet to make sure that they know exactly where they are, and maintaining a level of revenue grant funding is going to be absolutely essential. And I'd like to see them maintained at this level for the foreseeable future. Okay, thank you very much. We have item 6 on the agenda today, which is the water safety report, which is an information report, and I believe that's back to you, Claire.
It is. Thank you very much. The purpose of the report really is to highlight to members the work that's going on around the ongoing need to ensure that our water safety measures are adequate, appropriate, especially bearing in mind that we're the UK's only island city. So therefore the proximity to water is all over in that sense. So the other thing is to also highlight to you that this area of consideration and area of work rightly gets regular inspections by internal audit in terms of ensuring that our provision is adequate, sufficient, up to date, relevant. So we had appreciated that probably from a member's perspective, you may not have been aware of the breadth of what we were doing or the nature of the work that was happening. So that's the purpose of the report, is to highlight the work that's undertaken throughout the year in terms of elements such as public rescue equipment, which is all across the island and adjacent water areas, which are inspected on a regular basis, but also then the seasonal upstanding of a range of elements such as working with the Portsmouth and Southsea volunteer lifeguards, the RNLI seasonal contract that we have in terms of 7-day-a-week support stations which are positioned across the seafront, and also things like the Water Safety Forum, which I chair, which involves both local volunteer groups of active users of the water, such as the Portsmouth Canoe Association, the South Sea Rowing Club, key safety groups, such as Ports Coast Watch, and also elements such as blue light services with the Police Marine Unit and the MOD Police. So the Water Safety Forum considers a number of elements on a regular basis. They previously met 2 or 3 times a year, but last summer we lifted the number of meetings to reflect the way in which the water is being used. The number of incidents is both on the coast edge itself, on the shoreline, and in the water, in terms of how people used both elements, changed dramatically last year. We are expecting an equally busy year this year, and we had a meeting yesterday, first meeting yesterday with police, which started to look at elements of how things are going to be addressed and considered, and that will then feed into a water safety forum meeting towards the end of this month. We've also looked at and are about to install a number of new defibrillators, because we appreciated that the number of people out and about using the seafront, the demographic of that has changed considerably. And where some first aid and support facilities were within buildings, where those buildings have been closed, they've no longer been accessible to the public. So we're looking at an installation of 3 new defibrillator units across the seafront, from Eastney all the way down, Pyramids, etc. So those are all being looked at the moment and will be put in place. We're also offering a number of limited options for Southsea seafront concessions and seafront seasonal businesses to have specialist first aid training, because often, and in some instances, the concessions are the nearest space to where something might happen on the beach or seafront. There may be nobody else around. Some of those concessions, as we know, go in from early in the morning till late in the evening. We're also looking at a small trial of a floating wheelchair, which will be hopefully positioned to enable young people to get access to the water in wheelchairs. And we're working in partnership with the Portsmouth and Southsea volunteer lifeguards in order to how to support that in the best and safest way. So this is really the purpose of the paper, is to highlight the range of things that are happening around the issue of water safety and to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much indeed, Claire. Lots going on, and good to see that overall plan with so many partners is coming together to support the seafront this year. I'm sure it's going to be very busy down there. I'll go to Councillor Frank Jonas first.
Well, thanks for the report, Claire. And it's good to observe that the City Council have taken a keen interest in maintaining the public safety devices that we have around our shoreline. And I can speak obviously from Hillsey, that the lifebelts, etc., that we've got on our lovely walk from Mountbatten Centre, and the fact that you review that, visit them to see that everything's right, I think's a testament to our core principle of safety for our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frank. Councillor Stephen Morgan.
Thank you, Steve. Claire, thank you for the really helpful report. And I wanted to pay tribute to the RNLI, one of the busiest lifeboat stations in the region. The lifeguards, I think it's the oldest in the country, that are doing tremendous work right now, obviously all volunteers. And I think this work is more important than ever at a time that we're seeing more outdoor swimming and more water users like paddleboarders. So thanks for the report, it's really helpful.
And Councillor Claire Udy?
Nothing to add, but thank you for the report.
Okay, thank you for the report, Claire. Just to report back for your next meeting that I've had a couple of complaints this week about recent, yet again, jet ski activity down off Eastney Beach, which is an ongoing issue that we are trying to address, and concerns that this is neither exercise nor an essential journey at this period of time, and technically, therefore, they are, well, not technically, they are illegal, and we would expect the support from the Langston Harbour Master and the MOD, police, etc., Waterbourne Police, to try and help us with this, because it does make people very uncomfortable, and some of the behaviours I saw on Facebook was totally unacceptable. Yeah, I know it's an ongoing issue, but I just wanted to flag it.
Thank you. I'll take that away.
Thank you very much indeed. So the next item on the agenda, in fact, the final item on the agenda, last but not by no means least, David Evans on Cosham Larder.
Good morning. Good morning, councillors.
David.
Yes, the purpose of this is quite simple, really, to update you on the Cosham Community Larder project. And I have to say, a paper report doesn't do it justice. You really need to go and have a look at this to see what it's all about. I was there this week and last week, and they're accused of people going in. They pay a small amount of money every week, and they get food. It's not pasta or just pasta. It's whatever they want to choose. They get a number of items, and they're branded goods as well. They're not the cheap versions of things. So I'm really pleased to see that this project, which is supported by the City Council together with Hive as a strategic project, is moving further forward. And we're looking to have further and more of these larders throughout the city, and especially during this time of the pandemic. It's very, very important.
Thank you, David, and thank you personally for the huge amount of enthusiasm and support that you've put into making sure that that refurbishment of that site was done to a high standard, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for all your work on that. And also my thanks to the Southern Co-op, who intervened and helped a lot with the internal fit out. It's great to see the community coming together like that, and good luck to the team from St Philip's Church, who are already doing a great job in running it. And I saw a report, they sent me a message the other day, said had about 50 individuals and families in one day. So it just shows that it's only just starting, and already there's a demand for it there, and it's going to be well used, and it's going to help support some of those vulnerable families and give them the choice of the food that they have. Food banks do an amazing job, and I want for 1 second to take anything away from the fantastic work they do, but for those families on low incomes to be able to select the items that they use in terms of their self-esteem, and helping them to get back on the on a road to recovering their finances, and also us having the opportunity to link them in with where they can get that support is really, really essential. So it's a fantastic project, and I plan to pop up very soon and say hello. So thanks very much. Councillor Frank Jonas, any comments from you?
No, just to say thank you, David, and I commend the what we're doing there with the larder. Great idea. Hope it is spread out to other areas in the city that sadly needs it. But yeah, well done.
Thank you, Frank. Councillor Steve Morgan.
Thank you, Steve. David, thank you for the report, really helpful, and congratulations to all involved. I've not been up to it yet, but seen pictures online, and it looks fantastic, the transformation.
Yes, it's a real sort of changing rooms type job. You look at anything, how did that become that? Councillor Claire Udy, please.
I was just going to say, I recently watched a compilation of changing rooms fit outs where they all hated them, but obviously this is a great one. But it's a good one to watch on YouTube if you're bored and you need like 5 minutes of laughing to get over the day. But other than that, well done. Honestly, I love it. I'm going to come visit you as soon as the charity shops are reopen in Cosham, so I can come up on the bus and come say hello. I've seen your social media. If anyone's watching, I've seen the social media, and you're doing some a little bit of recipes. But I say that meatball sub was a little bit dubious. And
yeah, I saw that one.
But I have a friend who works for the Trash Cafe, and she takes home a lot of food from the Trash Cafe and does recipes for food and posts them online about how to incorporate food waste into your daily routine and do stuff like that. So if you're looking for someone who would like would like to kind of volunteer to help, please contact me, because I can put you in contact with some good people that can help you around food waste and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. And you know, the network of organisations that we've got across the city supporting people is phenomenal. I visited King's Church during the week, and the food bank there is set up like a military operation. It's incredible what they've done. And I used to visit that location many times when the Phoenix Players were based upstairs, and my mother used to hold her dancing shows there every 2 years. So I remember it looking very different than how it now does, with a fantastic reception area and a hugely enthusiastic group of volunteers who are really lovely people. So I think from all of us, a huge thank you to all the people who are supporting food distribution and support across the city at what's been a very difficult time. And we need to make sure that the council continues to help facilitate and drive that as we move forward. That's the end of the agenda today, members. So thank you, David, for that, bringing that information report. It's also the last meeting of the municipal year. So I just wanted to wish all of the officers well and thank them all for their support during the last municipal year, and to wish all the members the very best. The public will decide who sits in these seats after the 7th of May, and our groups will too. So I have no idea whether I'll be back. That's the one of the things that's one of the exciting things about politics. So whether I am or not, I wish you all the very best, and with your future endeavours, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just go and stop the live stream.
Good luck, Steve.
Thank you.
Just remember Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back.
Yeah, I didn't want to quite say that.
So we get kindergarten cop every